You know, when you think about an audit, there's just this immediate sense of dread.
Oh, absolutely. Just instant panic.
Right. Most of us imagine a financial audit, like someone in a stark, fluorescent lit room,
Yeah.
sitting across a table, just digging through years of crumpled receipts.
Yeah, examining every single coffee you bought.
Exactly. Every ambiguous business expense. They're asking you to justify every penny you have spent over the last decade. And it's terrifying because it strips away all your context. It just leaves you with the raw data of your choices.
Yeah, that vulnerability really amplifies when you realize the scope of the scrutiny. I
Mhm.
mean, the dread of a financial audit comes from the fact that nothing slips through the cracks.
Right. It's absolute.
Completely absolute. A financial ledger does not care about your intentions.
Right.
It only cares about where the resources actually went.
Well, what if we took that concept, that terrifying absolute level of scrutiny, and applied it to something vastly larger than your bank account?
Oh, wow.
Hmm.
Okay.
Imagine if instead of your taxes, it was a cosmic audit of your entire existence. Like every word you have ever spoken, every passing thought you entertained while sitting in traffic.
Even the intrusive thoughts.
Even the intrusive thoughts, every tiny intention behind your actions, all recorded and weighed on this universal scale to determine your literal eternal destiny.
Man, that changes the stakes of waking up in the morning entirely.
Doesn't it?
Suddenly, a random Tuesday isn't just a Tuesday anymore. It becomes a permanent data point in an eternal ledger. Your daily routine is no longer just about getting through the week. It is an active participation in this cosmic vetting process.
Welcome, everyone, to today's deep dive. Today is April 30, 2026, and if you were looking for a thought-provoking, kind of mind-bending philosophical exploration to break up your week, you are in the exact right place.
You really are.
We are looking at two highly intricate philosophical and spiritual texts today, both authored by Swifeng. They are titled The Value of Life and The Meaning of Life.
Yeah, and these texts, they present this unified, highly detailed spiritual cosmology. We are looking at an entire framework that attempts to answer, well, basically the biggest questions humanity has ever asked.
Like what we're here.
Right. Why do we suffer? What happens after we die? How are all living things connected? And the author answers these questions using a very unique blend of karma, reincarnation, and the actual physical laws of the universe.
But before we jump into the mechanics of all this, we need to lay down a quick ground rule.
Good call.
We are here today as your guides through this material. We are unpacking the mental models and the philosophical architecture of these texts. We are not endorsing the specific religious or spiritual worldview, and we are not asking you to adopt it.
No, not at all.
We are just putting on our explorer hats to examine the fascinating ideas the author has laid out. Our mission is to understand how the machinery of this universe he describes actually operates.
Because the value for us, and for you listening, it lies in the thought experiment. It is about looking at the world through a completely different lens and just seeing what kind of insights that massive shift in perspective might offer.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we can understand the mechanics of how this universe operates, we really have to talk about the stakes.
And they are high.
Astronomically high. The core premise here is that the human lifespan is incredibly brief. We are a mere blip on the cosmic radar.
Just a flash.
Right, but this tiny, fleeting blip is the sole determining factor for your eternal future.
Yeah, the text is very explicit that this brief window of human life is where the cosmic audit takes place. What is on the line are the specific destinations your consciousness can end up in after your physical body ceases to function.
The zip codes of the afterlife.
Exactly. The author categorizes these destinations into higher spiritual realms and lower realms, and they function almost like different frequencies of existence.
Let's talk about those destinations, because like you said, the text outlines some very distinct places. On the upper end, you have the higher spiritual realms, places the text calls the 1,000-year world, the 10,000-year world, and then the ultimate destination, the Elysium world.
Right, and we need to understand how these realms mechanically differ, because the text doesn't describe them simply as physical planets you travel to in a spaceship.
Right, it's not like moving to Mars.
No, it's more about states of spiritual durability. The 1,000-year or 10,000-year designations, they reflect the longevity and the stability of the soul in that realm.
Interesting.
Yeah, so in the 1,000-year world, the soul experiences an extended era of harmony and refinement, totally free from the heavy friction of Earth.
Like a long cosmic vacation.
Kind of. But if a soul achieves even greater purity, it reaches the 10,000-year world, getting closer to the source of creation. And Elysium is the pinnacle.
The ultimate goal.
Exactly. Pure, unadulterated existence where the soul merges perfectly with the cosmic order, completely free from the cycle of reincarnation.
But on the other side of the ledger, you have the lower realms, and these sound rough. The text lists the realm of livestock, the netherworld, and the flaming purgatory.
Yeah, and the mechanics of these lower realms are equally specific. Descending to the realm of livestock, for instance, it means your consciousness is compressed.
Compressed.
Yeah, you lose the privilege of complex thought and free will. Because you squandered it during your human life, you are basically reduced to pure biological instinct.
Wow, that's bleak.
It is. And the netherworld functions as a space of wandering without a vessel, kind of like a stagnant holding pattern. And then the flaming purgatory is described as a place of intense friction.
Where things get burned away.
Exactly. The heavy impurities of a corrupted soul are painfully burned away there.
It makes me think of life as this extreme, high-stakes escape room.
Oh, I like that analogy.
Right, because the text points out something striking. Even if you accumulate all the wealth on Earth, if your soul is heavy with greed and descends to the realm of livestock after you die, then all that earthly wealth was completely useless.
You failed the escape room.
You completely failed it. Conversely, if you possess absolutely nothing on Earth, like if you are totally destitute, but your life attains eternal happiness in Elysium, then you have won the ultimate victory. You solved the puzzle.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, what the author is really doing here is fundamentally redefining the concept of value.
How so?
Well, we are conditioned to measure value by what we can accumulate, right? Bank accounts, properties, status symbols.
Sure.
But the text argues that true value is entirely about what you transform into. The author uses this beautiful phrase, transforming decay into wonder.
So the physical body is the decay.
Yes, the biological vessel is temporary and, guaranteed to decay. But by using this brief, temporary existence to elevate your spiritual state, you overcome that decay and attain wonder.
Eternal life.
Exactly. Picture a massive set of cosmic scales. On one side, you have all the gold and status the world has to offer. On the other side, you have pure spiritual refinement.
And the gold is basically weightless.
In this cosmology, the earthly gold weighs absolutely nothing. The entire purpose of your brief human life is to tip the scales toward spiritual purity before the clock runs out.
Which brings us to a huge mechanical question.
Okay, let's hear it.
If souls are constantly moving around, like if people are ascending to the thousand-year world or descending into the realm of livestock, how does the universe keep all of this organized?
Ah, the logistics of the afterlife.
Right. How does it balance the books without the system overflowing? This leads us directly to the text's really unique blend of physics and spirituality.
Yeah, the author takes established scientific principles and just overlays them with spiritual meaning. The text explicitly invokes the law of energy conservation and what it calls the law of the indestructibility of life.
Applying physics to the soul.
Exactly. These are framed not just as rules for atoms, but as universal principles for the soul itself.
So in a purely physical sense, the law of energy conservation means energy cannot be created or destroyed, only transformed.
And the author applies that exact logic to the spiritual ecosystem. The text states that to maintain the stability of the universe, the entity referred to as the greatest creator regulated everything and placed a specific amount of spirituality within all beings.
Like a set budget of souls.
Precisely. Because energy cannot be created out of thin air, the total number of species and souls on Earth remains completely constant. Every single species has a natural, mathematical upper limit to its population.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on the math here.
I figured you might.
I mean, we can look around and see that the human population just keeps growing. If there is a strict universal population limit for all species, and spiritual energy cannot be created out of nowhere, where are all these extra human souls coming from?
That is the exact logical hurdle the text anticipates. And the answer provided is a strict zero-sum game.
Zero sum.
Yeah. If the total number of biological vessels is constant and one species increases its numbers, another species must necessarily decrease. So according to this framework, the massive increase in the human population comes directly from the plummeting populations of other animals.
Wait, really? So as human cities expand and animal habitats are destroyed, those animal souls don't just disappear
Nope. They are forced to migrate into human vessels.
through the cycle of reincarnation.
Yes. The text draws a very clear line between the material body and the spiritual soul.
Oh.
After death, The physical body, which is just biological energy, it decomposes and returns to the earth.
Right. Dust to dust.
But the spiritual soul, which originates from the greatest creator, is indestructible. It cycles back into the system like an elevator.
So it goes up and down.
Exactly. If a human degrades their spiritual qualities through cruelty or greed, their soul descends into an animal. If an animal's soul refines itself, it can cycle up into a human body. The human population boom is quite literally fueled by the souls of other species migrating up the spiritual ladder.
That is wild. The physical body is just a temporary rental car, but the driver, the soul, is constantly trading up or trading down depending on their driving record.
That's a great way to put it.
But that raises another massive question. If a wolf can become a human, and a human can become a celestial being or devolve into a sheep, how is the universe actually measuring the quality of a soul?
The grading rubric.
Yeah, a human and a sheep look entirely different, so how are they being graded on the same scale?
The text introduces a profound equalizer here. In terms of their core spiritual essence, all beings are perfectly equal.
Equal.
Completely. The text explicitly says the spiritual value of a wolf on earth is no different from that of a sheep. The essence of a human is no different from a monkey or a bee.
Even plants, right?
Yep. A peach tree equals a willow tree. A rose equals a blade of grass. The fundamental stuff of life, that indestructible spark from the greatest creator, is identical across the board.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because if we are all made of the exact same spiritual material, the text has to explain why we manifest in such wildly different forms.
And it does.
Yeah, the author introduces this fascinating gemstone analogy to explain the mechanics of spiritual quality.
It is a brilliant way to visualize such an abstract concept. The text actually uses the Mohs scale of mineral hardness to explain spiritual evolution.
Like from geology class.
Exactly. It posits that just like you can have the exact same base elements in geology, the physical properties of a stone change drastically based on its density, hardness, and clarity.
Right, so if the spiritual hardness reaches a 10 on the Mohs scale, it becomes a diamond. That represents the highest spiritual quality.
Spot on. A hardness of 10 is the diamond. If it's a 9, it becomes a ruby or a sapphire. At 8.5, you get a cat's eye. Between 7.5 and 8, you get aquamarine, zircon, or emerald.
It goes down the whole list.
He meticulously walks down this entire scale. The hardness continues to decrease through tourmaline, quartz, amethyst, jadeite. Down into the 3.5 to 5.5 range, you're looking at pearls and corals.
And at the very bottom.
It goes all the way down to granite and common pebbles.
So the difference between a diamond and a common pebble isn't that they are fundamentally different materials. They are both just stones. The difference is the immense pressure they have endured, their refinement, and how they interact with light.
Right. And let's ground those technical terms, because the text uses concepts like specific gravity and refractive index to explain human souls.
Okay, let's start with specific gravity. That's essentially a measure of density or weight, right?
Yes. And in this spiritual framework, your worldly attachments, your greed, your ego, your obsession with status, they add density to your soul.
Making it heavy.
Exactly. A worldly person has a high specific gravity. Their soul is heavy. And upon death, it literally sinks down to the lower realms.
And the refractive index is about how light bends as it passes through a material.
Right. So a spiritually ignorant person is opaque. Truth and cosmic light hit them and just stop. They cannot transmit light.
But a diamond can.
Yes. A saint, someone who has reached diamond status, has a perfect refractive index. They are transparent. Spiritual truth passes through them clearly and beautifully.
So humans are categorized by this literal spiritual physics.
Exactly. From ignorant people to worldly people to mortals, sages, and finally, saints. These classifications are driven by a person's disposition, their education, their wisdom, and their level of civilization.
Meaning your current physical form is simply the outward manifestation of your soul's current density and clarity.
That is the core of it, yes.
So what does this all mean? If the entire point of this cosmic system is to take a dense piece of granite, apply enough pressure, and refine it into a transparent diamond,
Right.
why does the process have to hurt so much? I mean, when you look at human life, it is inherently filled with contradiction, unfairness, and profound suffering.
It's messy.
Really messy. If the goal is just to be good and become a saint, why doesn't being a good person just make your life easier?
This leads us directly to the core problem of human suffering. And the text addresses this by looking at the inherent duality of human nature. It argues that humans are a unity of gods and demons.
Gods and demons inside us.
Basically. We have both righteousness and evil coexisting within us, and we are under the constant guardianship of two opposing gods.
How do those opposing gods actually operate? It feels like there is a constant tug of war happening.
Well, there absolutely is. Mechanically, one god represents the earthly, survivalist, material drive. This is the biological imperative pulling you downward.
Like the urge to hoard resources.
Yes, the urge to dominate, to prioritize immediate comfort. The other god represents the divine, transcendent spark pulling you upward, the urge to give, to reflect, to seek spiritual purity.
So we are caught in the middle.
Every single day, in every minor decision, you are caught in the friction between these two forces. You are forced to choose whether to sacrifice your immediate interests for the sake of the thousand-year world or to pursue material enjoyment and social status at the expense of your afterlife.
See, this is where traditional ideas of karma usually frustrate people, and the text actually seems to agree with that frustration.
It does.
In a lot of belief systems, the assumption is, if I am a good person today, good things will happen to me tomorrow. But the author explicitly points out that being kind, honest, and diligent does not guarantee immediate rewards in this lifetime.
No, it doesn't.
And being deceitful or lazy doesn't necessarily lead to a difficult life.
The author is incredibly pragmatic about the reality we observe every day. You can pray continuously, live ethically, and still face devastating illness or poverty. Misfortune hits everyone.
And the wicked often prosper.
Exactly. The wicked often prosper and the righteous often suffer.
But if the cosmic audit is tracking everything so perfectly, why is the immediate payoff on Earth so wildly disconnected from our behavior?
To answer that, we have to look at the text's most powerful metaphor. It describes human society not as a paradise and not as a courtroom where justice is handed out daily.
What is it then?
It describes human society as an alchemical furnace.
An alchemical furnace.
Yeah. Think about the actual mechanics of a furnace used for smelting. It is violent. It is brutally hot. It is designed to melt things down to their base components.
It destroys to refine.
Exactly. Earth is not meant to be comfortable. It is a refining process. The intense heat of worldly suffering, illness, betrayal, financial ruin, is the specific tool used to separate the pure gold from the impurities.
So the gold is refined into celestials.
And the heavy impurities are separated out and cast down.
The suffering isn't a punishment for bad behavior. It's the required heat for the alchemy. Without the heat, a lump of carbon never becomes a diamond.
Precisely. And because of this mechanism, the author gives a very stern warning. Do not use worldly success or failure to judge your moral standards or anyone else's.
It flips the script.
It flips our societal script entirely. It tells us not to envy the wicked person who holds a high position, enjoys vast wealth, and has a prosperous family.
Because it's a trap.
Their earthly success is just an illusion. They are failing the cosmic audit because their soul is becoming heavy with attachments.
And conversely, we shouldn't mock or pity the impoverished, pious person who dedicates their days to spiritual practice but experiences nothing but hardship. Their poverty doesn't matter because their soul is being actively refined into a diamond in that furnace. The only thing that survives the fire is the clarity of the spiritual essence.
It's a complete paradigm shift regarding how we process adversity. The daily frustrations are no longer random occurrences of bad luck. They are the exact environmental pressures required to test your specific gravity and refractive index.
So whether or not you listening to this right now believe in literal reincarnation or an alchemical furnace or the thousand-year world, the mental model here is incredibly grounding.
It really makes you pause.
It does. What if we stopped measuring the success of our lives by our material output? What if, instead of looking at our bank accounts or our career trajectories to see if we are winning, we measured our success entirely by our internal refinement?
Yeah, changing the whole metric.
Exactly. If this life is just a brief, temporary transitional phase, then obsessing over earthly wealth is like trying to hoard monopoly money while the building is burning down.
It demands that we focus entirely on the quality of our character rather than the quantity of our possessions.
Absolutely.
But looking at the massive scale of this zero-sum cosmology leaves us with one final, profound question to consider.
Okay, lay it on us.
We've talked entirely about the individual journey through the furnace. But what about the macro level? If the universe operates on a strict law of energy conservation, and the ultimate goal is to elevate every single soul out of the lower realms and into the Elysium world.
Wait, what is the end game of the cosmos?
Exactly. What happens when the system actually works?
Oh, wow. If human society is just an alchemical furnace designed to refine souls, what happens when the very last soul achieves diamond status and escapes the cycle?
Does the physical universe, this great furnace of Earth, simply power down?
Like shutting off the oven when the baking is done?
Yes. Does the material world cease to exist once its purpose as a spiritual forge is finally complete? It suggests that our ultimate destiny might not just be personal salvation, but the total dissolution of the physical world itself once the final drop of decay has been transformed into wonder.
That is something to think about the next time you're stuck in traffic, wondering what it's all for. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.